Hi everyone, it's another Wednesday and we are going to be talking today to a couple local architects from 4545 Architecture, and we will just wait for them to get on right here. Hi everybody. Hello Matt Adler. Hello, Nick. Hello, Ashley. Ashley, we might need you for tech support, so stand by. All right, I am going to look for 4545. Let's see if they are on. Waiting. There we go.
Oop.
Hi there.
Hi.
So yeah, it'll work best, I think, if you use the phone in profile, like you hold it straight up and down. There you go.
Okay, we gotta move closer then.
And then we just need to make sure Josh is in the
move one tick closer.
Picture, just in the very corner.
There we go. We got us both in there. Good.
Cool. Yeah, for sure.
Great.
All right. Cool. So excited to talk to you guys. Thanks so much for joining.
Yeah, thanks for having us.
So introduce yourselves, please, just so we know who we're talking to.
All right, so I'm Tim Flintoff. I founded 4545 Architecture about 4 years ago. I'm a Woodbridge resident. Been in Detroit now about 20 years since I came here to go to Detroit Mercy for architecture school. And we've been in Woodbridge for about 7 years. We moved here. We realized we were spending all of our time in the city, and why don't we just live in the city? So, we spent a few years in the suburbs after college, but then we've been back since. And my wife and I, we live at Forest and Commonwealth area in Woodbridge, and we got, 2 Huskies in the neighborhood. And then Josh is my business partner.
Yep, I'm Josh Maddox. I joined 4545 about 2 years ago, and lifelong Michigan resident, grew up in Oakland County, and came back to Detroit after studying, finishing up grad school out east, and came back to Detroit in about 2012, and have been here ever since.
Also in Woodbridge.
Oh yeah, also in Woodbridge.
Oh, you're a Woodbridge resident?
Yeah,
too.
actually we have I can say that I was the reason that Tim and Ashley came to Woodbridge, because my wife and I had renovated a townhouse down at the south end of the neighborhood, and they were looking for houses in the city. And I was like, well, there's a couple, popping up on my street. Come take a look at them. And one of them hit, and it's great to get everybody here.
Yeah, we lost one on Avery. We lost about 9 houses in Indian Village and a few other areas in Sherwood Forest. And, the problem is, being architects, is we can see the value in a house, and, and when we were looking for houses, it was a different market than it is now. And, we weren't going to get into bidding wars, and we weren't going to go above a certain amount, because we could tell what the house had value for and what it was going to cost to put into the house. And, sometimes we're lucky that, we didn't need that 5,000 square foot Indian Village home with a 3-car garage and a carriage house. So, we're happy with we still have plenty of room in Woodbridge, but we're happy, with what we got. We're happy to be so close to everything. So
it's an awesome neighborhood. Yeah, so that's awesome. So we're just blocks from each other talking, talking over the interwebs.
Well, normally Josh and I are talking over the internet every day. Like we haven't been in the office much. Our office is in the Fisher building, but we're both working remotely right now, pretty much exclusively. So it's rare for us to be in the same room. But here we are, so we're happy.
Cool. Well, we have some fans in the audience here. Todd Sykes saying hello.
Oh, we'll talk to you tomorrow, Todd.
So yeah, I wanted to kind of get a little bit more into your background. So Tim, you went to U of D Mercy for architecture school. Josh, where did you go to school, and how did your careers sort of develop and bring you to the place where, Tim, where you started the company, Josh, where you kind of came to, you know, meet Tim and come on as a partner? Like, kind of bring me up to speed, like from the inception through today.
So my undergrad's from Detroit Mercy. I also double majored in history. And then I went to Lawrence Tech for my master's. I started an MBA and never finished it because I realized that I really didn't need it to do what I wanted to do. I worked for Albert Kahn for about 10 years out of school. And then I, you know, had the unfortunate ability to leave during that last recession. And then I worked for Kramer Design Group for just under a year. I worked for Stuckey Vitelli and Royal Oak for about 6 or 7 years. And then I worked for Nordstrom Sampson, NSA, in Farmington Hills for about a year. And then I worked for almost 3 years for Hamilton Anderson. And, you know, Rainey was a U of D alum and doing great work in the city. And I really sought out that move with the intentions of getting my, you know, reestablishing my work in the city and making connections with the goal of starting the firm. You know, so I went into that, you know, because it was a developer-based work, a lot of, you know, residential, high-end residential, working for some really great clients, most of which are still with him. We're doing with a lot smaller scale than he is. But you know, just learning, you know, how to work with residential developer, commercial development work, with the goal of starting a firm. And we knew that was kind of the market, or I knew that was the market I was going to probably go after, knowing that I'd be doing a lot of kitchen renovations and bathroom renovations first to pay the bills. But, you know, we've been steadily growing. And, you know, then 2 years ago, I was, you know, looking to expand, and it's always a little more comfortable to take on a partner than hire somebody, because you guys, you know, you're in it together, and, you know, sink or swim, we're working together. We're going to make profit or we're not. And
feast
you know,
or famine. You don't have to worry about making payroll.
Yeah, we're going to do it together. And, you know, so Josh and I have known each other for a long time, and he knew my wife at Smith Group. They sat next to each other for a number of years, and we've been friends for a long time. And, you know, we started talking about it, and, you know, he started doing some projects for me, and, you know, we complement each other well, because I'm more of a half architect, half business development, and Josh is a great designer and detailer. So, you know, we complement each other really well.
Fantastic.
Carry on.
Yeah. So I did my undergrad at Lawrence Tech, and well, I was there because you know, one of Lawrence Tech's big kind of unique factors is their scheduling that allows you to you know, do your entire degree in night school. So that's what was you know, really drew me there, because it allowed me to work. So for the last couple of years of my undergrad degree, I was working almost full-time, basically, at SHW Group in Berkeley, who's now Stantec, and they were actually DSA architects when I hired in. So
what's a DSA architect?
Oh, that was the name of the firm.
Oh, okay.
Yeah,
gotcha.
Prior to, they've gone through some name changes. So worked there until about that 2008 time frame. The market in Michigan was starting to change, starting to dry up. So I decided that, you know, why not do something different, and take some time to go to grad school and kind of see a different market. So my girlfriend at the time is my wife now. We moved out to New York City, and I went to Pratt Institute in Brooklyn for grad school. And we were out there for a little over 3 years, finishing up the degree and working a little bit on contract for some small firms out there. And then, you know, got to a point where the 400 square foot studio apartment is starting to feel a little small, and the project by project paycheck is starting to spread a little thin. So looking for that, you know, real adult architecture job, and still had some good connections back here in the Detroit area, and then came back to a really good offer working for Smith Group. So I was at Smith Group for about 8 years, and, you know, got a lot of, you know, really good experience working on really interesting projects. You know, they do a lot of institutional work with, you know, higher ed and corporate headquarters work and some really kind of unique science and tech lab work. So got to work with some really great, professionals who really dive into kind of their niche as it relates to architecture, and learned a lot. And, but really through that experience decided that, while those types of projects are cool and the big projects are fun to work on sometimes, working on a small project for a client who's going to, spend a lot of time in the project, like when you're talking about a single family home or just a smaller residential project. And, so those spaces that, that so many memories are tied to and experiences just as, being a person versus, your workplace and, a school or things like that, just like kind of breaking things down to those really basic building blocks of like your house and your living room where you're going to entertain and have friends over and spend time with your family. And then those are things I was really missing in the big projects. And I actually got the opportunity at Smith Group to work on the Midtown Eco Homes with Midtown Detroit Inc.
Wow, that's a really cool project.
Yeah. So that was like a great taste into the small project, working with a developer, working on really tightening everything up a little bit, because those, there was, at the time, there was a really specific price point we were trying to hit and a square footage, and the lots were small. And that was really a good kind of trial by fire for the projects that Tim and I are working on now, which, working with these smaller city lots, but trying to maximize the type of project you can get out of such a small area in order to increase the density that our neighborhoods need so much. Those are things that really got me excited. And I started to think, these are the types of projects that I really want to work on and I'm getting excited about. But it's like once in a blue moon does a project like that come into Smith Group. So I started my eyes started to wander a little bit. And because I knew Tim's wife, Ashley, when she worked at Smith Group, we had developed a friendship with Tim, and I knew what Tim was working on and kind of his exit strategy and his plan for what a firm could look like. And I was like, okay, well, when you get to a point and you feel like you need an extra set of hands, let me know. And then that day came, and we've been running ever since.
That's wonderful. So as a partnership, and then also kind of, it's a great time, I feel like, in Detroit to be in real estate and to be in architecture. I feel like you just have so many opportunities to really make a mark on the city, especially in a city like Detroit, where it's really like big fish, small pond kind of a thing, like I feel like you can really create something that will be memorable and will be noticed and things like that. So how have you built the company? Like what has been your bread and butter? I guess, where does your business come from? How do you find your business?
A lot of our business comes from word of mouth relationships that, we've built over time with realtors, contractors, clients, even referrals from some of the architects that we used to work for. It's busy times right now. So, everyone's, the bigger companies can be a little choosier, and they've referred stuff to us. We've got connections. The architecture industry is, very tight knit. We've had very fortunate that some architects have referred clients to us as they've been too busy, and that's grown into repeat clients, which really is Josh and I taking care of the clients and servicing them well, and, them wanting to come back to us, which we really appreciate. So a lot of it's, repeat business, word of mouth, not being afraid to talk to anybody about any project, big or small. I started the company, 4545 is my house address. The idea was it's a small firm where we don't ever want to be a 100-person firm. We like being hands-on. So, you're always talking to one of us. I'm not afraid to someone tag me on Facebook and say, hey, this person's looking to do a bakery. And, I'll go on Messenger and I'll message them back and say, hey, I'd love to talk to you. They may not go with us. They may go with somebody else, or, there might be a better fit. But, the relationships we build lead to most of our work. And, even though we always keep wondering what the next project is, and then all of a sudden there's another project, and then there's another 8 projects, and it's just, right now it's not stopping. So, we're very fortunate and happy that, we survived the first part of this pandemic very well. March, April, May were slow. Not much new work was coming in, but we had a lot of backlog. Mm-hmm. And then as soon as like May hit, we were out the gates running with stuff. But we also weren't shy to take stuff as far as north as like Clio, north of Flint. We did a home renovation up there. We got a project, a little cottage we did up in Torch Lake. So it's being willing to take whatever projects come your way that are good quality projects and with good quality clients.
Yeah, I saw Station 45. Was either in Fenton or Flat Rock?
Station 24 is done.
Station 24. Okay, I wrote down 24 and I said 45. So
yeah, it's on Telegraph. That client approached us. They had talked to another architect who did the previous renovation, and they couldn't get a hold of him. And my buddy I went to college with that's in the glass and mirror business was like, oh, talk to Tim. And so we connected, and we've done that project, and we've done a couple other studies for that developer as well.
And so that was just a renovation of a business?
So that was it was an old gas station, an old Texaco station that had been converted into a submarine shop, pizza shop. And so we did an addition to it, and kind of played a little bit on the Art Deco influences of the gas station, and then some of the 70s influences of the glass and acrylic wraps they would do around the roofs. And so it's really fun because we got to use a lot of LEDs in it, and so like when you go down there at night, we can change the colors behind the signage, behind the lights. It's got a really cool pop to it. So
sounds like opportunity to really let your creative juices flow.
Yeah, and it's fun because it wasn't a huge addition, but it expanded the seating, and then the way we did detailed the exterior with a glazed subway tile on the walls, and then you got some of the nice little retro looks to it that kind of are more fun, and they bounce. It's something different than a lot of the modern stuff we do for our restaurants or for our residential family. So.
Mm-hmm. So I'm just getting a sense, kind of like, I did want to, I had a question about like, the skill sets that you each contribute to bring, to kind of create that great partnership. And I'm kind of getting a sense that like, Tim, you're kind of like big picture, and Josh, you're really like detail, granular. Like, is that like a correct assessment of like how you kind of like fit together in your like working on different projects together?
Yeah, I think that's, with having 2 people there, to some extent, we both have to be able to do everything in order to make everything happen and keep things moving. But as Tim said earlier, I think that our kind of individual interests and kind of like fine-tuned skill sets complementary each other really well, where Tim does have a great business development background. So when we're early in a project and making those initial connections and having those big picture conversations about what the project could be, Tim is really great at doing the kind of visioning and the math in his head, right up front to determine what's really possible or what is really necessary. How big does a project need to be in order to meet the needs they're talking about? And with me, with my experience working on, projects that are super, that can get super complex and have a lot of like, high tolerances and things like that, like in terms of the performance of the, exterior of the building, if it's something that needs to meet some really strict energy goal or just the strict requirements of like the lab space, being able to drill down into those kind of details and make those different priorities align properly is something that, I get a lot of a lot of joy out of kind of like solving the little puzzle. So, you know, we're able to kind of pass projects through that process. And even though there's only two of us, you know, with both of our experiences, we're able to kind of provide a lot of, you know, a lot of thought and a lot of, you know, a deeper thought process because we both have this varied experience.
Yeah, you know, I think it's you know, it's good that we don't work in silos with us. Every project we both collaborate on throughout the process. One of us might be the lead on it and dealing with the client is the point, but you know, we never 100% own a project and do it all on our own. It's, you know, both of us are touching every project and we're constantly critiquing the project back and forth and trying to refine it. Yeah, you know, it's like in a collaborative process. You know, it's something we've been doing since we started school. Is, you know, is the collaboration and the you know feedback, and we're not afraid to give that to each other. So,
well, I want to talk about some projects that you're working on now, and I think I'm able to kind of pull some of these up. So maybe I can, you know, pull up a photo here and there, and you can tell me a little bit more. Like, so tell me about this one. Can you see that?
Yep. Yeah. So that's one of our North Corktown projects. It's going before BZA next month.
Which is the Board of Zoning Appeals.
Yep, Board of Zoning Appeals. So it's an 8-unit for sale project. And then there's across the street, there's another 4-unit component of it. So in total, it'll be 12 units. You know, sizes range from an 830 square foot 1-bedroom unit up to almost 1,400 square foot 3-bedroom unit with a roof terrace. Every unit has a private garage, and then 6 of the 8 units have their own backyards. So this is one of our projects in North Corktown that we've been working on, trying to get through the city for about a year now.
Okay, and then what about this one?
So that's Steelhouse. It's so in Corktown on Michigan Avenue, across from 2 James. This is one of those projects that we actually, you know, was started out conceptually with another architect, a friend of ours, and they didn't have capacity. And you know, as we were starting out, they handed off this project to us. So you know, we picked it up in the conceptual phase and worked with the owners. The owners are in the auto industry, and one of them is a car designer. So you know, we collaborated with them on the design and influenced, you know, to create this design that uses shipping containers. And then the challenge with this is because of the location and in the city and the zoning, there's a traditional Main Street overlay that starts to influence some of the design materials. So we had to you know, refine the design further to, you know, meet those requirements of the city, you know, while still trying to, you know, use the structure and character of shipping containers. So you see little bits of where the container comes through on the 3rd level, and the verticalness of kind of the expression of the containers on the left.
Yeah, this is a really good example of how our previous experience managing, you know, project sizes from, you know, the Midtown Eco Homes up to, you know, skyscrapers and big, you know, corporate headquarters buildings really comes into play, because it's a relatively small project, but it's super complex for many different reasons. It's mixed use, so you have retail on the 1st floor in the front with apartment units above it, and then an actual kind of semi-separated single-family unit at the back of the site. So there's a lot of things in terms of navigating the city ordinances and zoning, but also dealing with fire separation between the different uses, and then bringing in the fact that we're using shipping containers for most of it. So they have their own, you know, technical limitations that you have to work around, and construction details, and we're integrating it with more traditionally constructed elements. So getting those things to work with each other and align, and end up with a cohesive building that actually functions, you know, keeps the water out when it rains, and the heat in the middle of days like this. Like it's really complex, and it's all kind of landing on the smallest, weirdest shaped site you could ever imagine on Michigan Avenue. So it was kind of a perfect early project for us to kind of showcase the, what we bring to the table.
But a project like this also requires us to bring our engineers in. So this is a full service project that, has civil engineering, mechanical, electrical, plumbing engineering, structural engineering. So we bring all of our consultants with us to the team to deliver this project. It's not just the architects. It's another 7-8 people that are part of the team that we expand when we need to for our commercial projects.
So, and I just wanted to mention, if anybody has any questions, feel free to throw them in the chat. We'll get them answered. I see that Robbie Lynn had asked about the square footage of the retail space, and it looks like the developer is also in here right now and responded back that there is 1,600 of retail on the ground level and then another 640 on the mezzanine. So there we go. There's the answers. So I want to talk to you. It doesn't look like you sent me more photos, but for whatever reason, my phone is not allowing me to bring up more of your projects. Maybe I can try this again. But I wanted to ask you about your aesthetic. So all of your designs have a very specific aesthetic, which is, a very, very modern, and which we don't have enough of in Detroit. So I want to ask you more about that. Are there certain influences that you both have, certain materials that you keep coming back to, sort of what has influenced this look that you seem to be producing a lot of, that sort of style?
Well, we do a lot of historic rehab work as well. We were before Historic Commission. It seems like every other month or so, both for new work and for old work, for renovation work and rehab work. I think the challenge is we respect the historic fabric of the city, and we both live in 100-plus-year-old homes, but even in our home, where we've made major renovation works, we've done a more modern approach to some things. And then we've, other places where we've done minor stuff, it's more of a respecting of the house and its traditional heritage. But we think that when we do a lot of the new stuff, we really like to bring a modern, influence to the design. And Josh kind of leads that design queue with some of the bold moves and the material changes and massing really, kind of influencing that.
Yeah, I think that, especially working in a city like Detroit that has gone through so many phases, and you can really, with the fact that we've lost so many buildings, and understanding that from one era, you'll never be able to go back to an era that was already here, because those pieces are gone.
You can't make them like you used to. Don't even try.
Right. And while it's important to infill that as much as we can and kind of bring the density of the city back so that it can thrive, there's almost a little bit of referencing that loss by making sure that what you put back almost has a kind of timestamp on it. So you can see the buildings that have been here for 100 years or 200 years. And then you see the buildings that 100 years from now, they'll be able to say, okay, this building came, in 2020 when the city was on its third upswing, so that history kind of lives in the style of the building. And so what we do now, we feel we wanted to kind of reference the time now and take some of those, the big design cues from that. But another thing that we like to do is, use more traditional materials. So while the building might, overall as you're kind of walking by it, kind of read very modern, very contemporary. But when you actually, stop to look at it and see that, we're introducing a lot of brick, and we try to look at the neighborhood context and use a brick that's similar to, other things that might already be there, but we're just using it on a building that is more contemporary. So when you have something that definitely reads as coming from now, it still has some relationship, and it's able to have a conversation with the stuff that's happening around it. So we feel that, like, if we get to a point where the city is full, but as you're walking down the streets, you kind of get a sense of the history and get a sense of the time in which everything happened, then that's kind of a beautiful story that gets told, versus everything trying to steal street cred from each other, and stuff like that. Like Tim said, we both live in, homes that are over 100 years old, and we feel that there's a certain amount of street cred that comes with that. And, my house, our houses have been here, they've been through stuff, they've seen stuff, and if a new house goes up across the street, I don't want them to steal that street cred. When somebody walks down the block who doesn't live in the neighborhood, I don't want them to think that the new house, has the same, has lived the same life as my house, for instance. So that kind of, plays into how we think when we're designing in these neighborhoods.
I just texted you some pictures, so maybe they came through.
Oh, okay. Let me see if hopefully I don't. I'm afraid that if I switch, maybe somebody can answer this for me. If I switch out of Instagram to my texts, then will it shut down the live feed? So if somebody can give me an answer on that, I can check. Otherwise, I'm afraid that I'm just gonna lose all of this. So we have a question here. We have a couple questions. But Rob Lynn wants to know, are there cities that you look for inspiration for your modern infill in historic areas? I was going to mention one of my favorite examples of beautiful juxtaposition of historic and modern is Antwerp. And you can take like a subway under the river to the newer side of the city and look at the skyline, and it's all like, buildings from the 1600s and then completely modern, several stages of modern buildings, but they all are so complementary in size and scale that it's just like poetry. So I guess that kind of like goes along with the conversation we're talking about. But where do you look for inspiration?
I mean, all over really, and it's not so much even like the kind of the tourist based, like the places where, like, even like as an architect you like want to go to see, like, you pick up so much just walking down, any block anywhere, and just seeing like what happened when two people own two sides of a duplex, but they're kind of doing their own take. When I was in spending time in New York, you see that all the time, because you see blocks of these row houses, and they could all be the same, but they're all slightly different. So what you pick up on is this ability to build variety into things that could be the same, but then also kind of find cohesiveness in things that are different. And you start to notice, like, how do the windows align from building to building? And is that enough as you're walking by to kind of make it seem like it's continuous versus individual buildings? And I would say that more so in terms of instead of trying to think of like a city or a building or a situation, to kind of think about aesthetic or anything like that. It's really those more, and this might be related to what you said earlier about kind of the nitty gritty, getting into the detail or whatever, but noticing those things and how does it play out kind of in the wild, in these areas that you can really walk through and see, and how does it, what's the actual effect that it's having, and then is there a way to pick up on those those things that you're noticing and then kind of bake it into a design that, you know, that's a brand new ground up project?
Yeah, I wouldn't say I have any specific cities that I would reference. I mean, we love Baltimore, and that's a great kind of, you know, gritty city as well. That's, you know, resurged a lot quicker. I like to think sometimes that, you know, we could be where Baltimore is in 20 years, you know, with the, you know, celebrating the Inner Harbor and the strong neighborhoods. And, you know, we've got, you know, definitely that trajectory towards that. You know, and they've got history of the houses and the neighborhoods, and, you know, in the same kind of age and character in a lot of their neighborhoods. You know, we've been to a lot of cities in Europe. My wife and I lived in Warsaw for 6 months in school. You know, so, you know, everything, it's not necessarily one thing, it's everything is a culmination of influence. You know, our passion for, you know, some of the great architects that have influenced Detroit and influenced, you know, the Bauhaus movement. You know, Mies van der Rohe is one of my favorites. You know, Frank Lloyd Wright, you know, everything. You know, we're actually going on Thursday or Friday to meet with a potential client. There was a builder for Frank Lloyd Wright named Harold Turner, who turned architect, who did a lot of homes in Bloomfield Hills area. And this house had a bad fire in December, so we're meeting with a client. And while it's not necessarily new work, it's a chance to help tell the story of how that house is being rebuilt. So we're going to meet with that client and hopefully, you know, be able to proceed with them. And really there, it's just an attention to detail and trying to help recreate the home as it was, so we can, you know, help reestablish, you know, that fabric that's lost by the fire. So it's just a lot of different things that influence us. You know, there's no one thing that, you know, really plays a key role. It's everything is just as we take in stuff.
So what has been, can you say what's been your favorite project to work on so far?
It's hard. There's a lot. We've had a lot of great stuff. We're like bursting at the seams right now, because like a lot of stuff is in the works. Like you spend a lot of time growing the firm and nothing gets built for the first few years, and then now we've got a lot of stuff that we're on the verge of seeing happening. You know, we've got some great multifamily stuff coming forward in a lot of different neighborhoods. You know, we got the chance to work on the powerhouse on the Scripps Park site. We're rehabbing that for the client and influencing the design of that whole development. So that's it's going to be a really nice centerpiece to Woodbridge. It's, you know, it's great when you can do something in your own backyard. You know, we keep trying to get more projects in the neighborhood, just because we want to, you know, be able to walk our dogs and see our work. But there's just a lot of great stuff, like our duplex in Corktown that's under construction right now. We're really excited. That's going to be a really cool modern design. And then it's also got a rehab component that we're actually, there's a historic cottage on the site that is in very bad structural shape. And, you know, we spent a lot of time working with historic development to come up with a strategy of how we could save the house best and do an addition. So we're actually going to be bracing the front wall in place, removing the other walls, removing one wall on the side, and then actually panelizing it. And at some point when we rehab it, those panels are going to be hung on new construction. So you're going to still see two sides of this existing house with the addition. So, you know, there's a lot of really cool stuff that we've had the opportunity to move forward, and, you know, that stuff's finally coming out of the ground.
Yeah, I was going to ask you about that. So, because I was looking through your Instagram feed, and there was a post about demolishing a building in Corktown, and my first thought was, how did you get the, is that the same project that you're talking about? Like a little pink house?
Yeah. So all we did was we actually didn't demolish the house. So we're saving the house. What we demolished was an addition that was failing. That was done in the, we think, what, the 40s?
Well, yeah.
And the foundation was completely failing. And then as we open up the house, we find that the entire house is actually sitting on about 4 stumps, you know, where we thought there was a decent foundation to work with. You know, we get into that construction administration phase, and that's when, you know, everything gets exposed and we figure it out. So then we had to go back to the drawing boards with historic and come up with a solution that, kept the character defining elements of the home from a historic perspective, but allowed us to move forward for the developer's objective, which was turning it into a 2-bedroom, 2-bath for rent unit.
Okay. So what would be your dream project? Like what, the lifetime goal, like what would you love to work on?
The next one.
Honestly, everything we do, we love doing. Like, I have no favorite projects of what we're doing, because everything we do, we get to put our design influence on, from from doing a loft in Eastern Market and interior renovation to, multifamily new construction. It's, everything is a challenge. And, I had a client ask me a few weeks ago if I thought their project was too small. And I said, it's not about the size of the project. It's about if we can come up with something creative, if we can do something that's going to make us think and really explore. We don't care how big or small the project is. We need a creative outlet. And, that's our challenge, is to find projects that give us a creative outlet.
Yeah. At the end of the day, architecture and design in general is all about problem solving. So it's really about the process and not so much about, the finished product. So, for us, it's projects that have those weird angles to them. And like, I want to do this, but I'm dealing with this. How am I going to make it work? And that's where we really get to, sink our teeth in and get a little messy and have fun. And that's really what it's about for us.
Mm-hmm. Yeah. It's fun to be like a professional problem solver, I mean, it's just kind of, that's all part of the thrill of the creativity of it all. Okay. So we have a couple of questions in here. So the Real Flowers Enterprise wanted to know, how long does it take you to complete a project? I don't know that you could answer that, but maybe what's been the longest project you've worked on?
Well, it really, yeah. So, I mean, one, it depends on the complexity of the project and the size, and also if it's in the city of Detroit, and if we have to go for conditional land use, supportive zoning appeals, site plan review, all those processes take time. Planning, design, development is a key partner that we work with to come up with the designs. They're looking out for the benefit of the city and to create quality work. The design process, we can do a concept phase in 4 weeks, but then it might take another 8 to 12 weeks to get through the city on something, and it might take more time. Typically most large construction projects are 12 months, 18 months. Smaller homes, maybe 6 months in construction. Mm-hmm. But it really depends on the scale, the size of the project, and the complexity of the approvals that you got to get. Mm-hmm. We try to be upfront with clients as soon as we understand their scope, and tell them, like, this thing isn't going to happen for X amount of time because of this, and this. And those are all things that are going to just be a direct influence of how much time it takes before we can put a shovel in the ground.
So we have another question from Rob Lynn. What is the biggest mistake you see your clients make in the development project? Or, what do you have to, like, how do you have to prepare your clients so that they can be the most successful?
On the renovation side, it's slowing them down.
Yeah.
It's too often a client's like, I'm going to go ahead and do demo. I'm going to do this. I'm going to do that. And, there's a process that we have to go through. And a lot of times, the clients will short circuit the process and make decisions like, I'm going to do this major renovation, but I'm going to go ahead and put windows in on day 2. Now, we might be moving windows when we do the reconfiguration of a house, or something might happen and a window gets damaged. So now you've spent money twice. So it's making decisions in a timely manner, in a smart manner, and not being afraid to ask us before you make the decision. We're here to be your advocate and advise you. That's what you're paying us for, is, not just to get an instruction manual. It's, we understand the process. We understand how to work with contractors. We've built relationships with our teams over time of contractors. And, in the end, we want to get you what you want, but you just have to know that we know the process and trust that we're going to get you to the end.
Mm-hmm.
Yeah. And from the other from the other end of the spectrum with some of our bigger projects and bigger developers is not taking the sort of the requirements, or trying to find the word, like the requirements that the city has in terms of what a development can be, and thinking they can just come in with all of the flash and money and make whatever project they want, and not wanting to take the time to really work with the different city departments to right size the project and try to kind of minimize how far outside the bounds of the zoning or the codes a project is, and that's where with the way that the city and specifically the planning department has kind of retooled the way they work in the last few years, it's really created a very kind of open and dialogue-based process where we can come to the city like with a project really early on and say, okay, this is what we want to do, you know, and get a sense of what can we absolutely, you know, not do, but then where are those kind of areas where we can push a little bit, you know, ask for a variance here, have an interesting interpretation of an ordinance here, and kind of try to get the client's goals accomplished, but do it in a way that kind of everybody comes around and says, this is an amenable project that everybody can get behind, versus saying like, how did they get that built? You know, they railroaded that through, or you know, what you hate to have happen is have a project get stopped where you have to literally go back to the drawing board and come up with something else because you're not playing the game.
So those early meetings are really an opportunity to not waste a lot of time up front working on something that just wouldn't be feasible, where the city says, for this location, we're not going to support something like that. We really want to see something more like this. We want a bigger building. We want a smaller building, like something like that.
Yeah, exactly. And we've learned that process over the last 2.5 years. And, you know, now we're actually getting complimented from the city sometimes from the planning process that, you know, we go into this meeting with all the departments and present our project, and there's less comments and we're done in a half hour because we've taken the time to have 7 or 8 meetings ahead of it to get buy-in from departments and get their support, instead of, you know, showing up and you know, having a project that's, you know, way too big for the site and doesn't respect the context of the neighbors. You know, we've explained to the client why this is a better approach as an infill development that satisfies everybody's, you know, you're not going to have opposition from the neighborhood because you're not trying to over densify, you know, well beyond what the land can support. And the city says this is a great project because it provides the right amount of what we're looking for.
Yeah, it becomes an interesting balance because we work for the client, you know, we're their advocate, but we also have to, you know, be a champion for the neighborhood and, you know, be a champion for the city as a whole, and try to, you know, stand up for those, you know, the ordinances that are in place, and try to do something that is right for the neighborhood, but then do that in a way where the client is still getting what they need and their goals for the project met.
Yeah, you don't want them to be pushing for something that you know is not feasible. You know, you want to
or isn't right, you know, isn't best.
Yeah, and I assume that you know, have enough business now where, you know, if somebody wants to do a project that just doesn't feel right to you, like isn't a good contribution to the neighborhood, I'm guessing that you kind of are in a position where you can say, you know, no, I mean, we just don't feel comfortable, you know, pushing for something like that.
We've suggested what we think is right for sites, and we've written proposals for those opportunities. And when they go with another architect, we've tried our best. And, if they're going to go with somebody else and do what they want to do, that's, their prerogative. It's their investment. We just try to suggest what we think's best for neighborhoods as an advocate for beyond just our own developments, because we do live here. We want to be good stewards of our city.
Absolutely. So I ran into you at my office building recently, because you are renovating a loft, or maybe you're finished renovating it now, but I didn't know that you provided design services as well as architecture services. So how much of your business is just strictly like interior design versus architecture?
So we do some custom stuff like that, but a lot of it's in collaboration with our exterior work. So if we're doing new construction for sale or something like that, we'll do the interior design as well. We also partner with another interior designer that we do we've done several projects with over the last few years. That she's an interior designer and her husband's a contractor, so we do work together that way. But the loft project was one that we did solely as an interior project. We love the opportunity to do those two, because we really get to explore materiality and the volume of the space, and try and this one we were curating a master bathroom, a guest bathroom, a whole new custom kitchen with high-end appliances, creating a loft mezzanine space. So it was complete down to the studs redo project.
Yeah, that was fun. Is it finished now?
It is, yeah.
Yeah,
there's pictures on our website of it. We got to do some really cool things, like the center island has this great live edge countertop that someone else in the neighborhood, Aaron Keast with Hog Island, made for us. So we were able to use another local neighbor to do the fabrication of that and install. So we did some great maple bow tie connections for the corners, and just it turned out wonderful. And then a lot of nice details that we're able to pull into that to create a really cool space.
Well, we are kind of like getting close to that 9 o'clock time. Is there anything that I didn't touch on, like anything that that you would want to tell the people? Any new projects that you want to let us know about?
Yeah, we're working on a really cool project for the city of Detroit, over on the east side on Warren. We're converting an old bowling alley into a workforce career training center for the city.
Okay.
So it's kind of fun, because the building's been empty for about 25-30 years. It's an old high bay space. It actually was a really old bowling alley that had the manual pin setters that would sit back there on platforms and actually set the pins. And so we're renovating that completely, interior, exterior, and so that's going to be getting submitted for permits in the next few weeks, and starting construction in the spring, and hopefully opening in the late fall, and providing an opportunity for training for Detroit residents for looking for new careers. We're really excited to see that project go forward, because it's a chance to do more than just our residential projects. We like doing commercial projects as well, that especially ones that have a nice impact like that. We've done a lot of Motor City Match over the years, working with clients as well. Those are great neighborhood influencing projects. So we're in a lot of neighborhoods, and we're in, working with a lot of great clients to do a lot of great neighborhood based stuff, which is what we really like to do.
Good. Yeah. Well, we've interacted a lot just through, the developers that we work with, and the developers that you're working with. So it's just exciting to, keep up with everything that you've got going on. So we'll have to. So everybody, please follow 4545 Architecture so you can keep up. You guys hopefully will be posting more schematics and designs and renderings of your projects, so we can keep up with everything.
Yeah, we try to update we just did a major website update recently, and added a lot of our projects that are on the boards right now.
And
So
what's
there's a
the
lot.
website?
It's 4545architecture.com.
Okay,
So
perfect.
we're on Instagram, we're on Facebook as well. So you know, my wife is a social media manager for me because I'm not uh, determined enough to do it myself all the time. So she's on top to make sure we're engaging with social media and getting our
Good.
projects out there for people to see. So
It's good to have complementary skill sets with spouses as well. Like,
yeah. So
great. Well, thanks so much. This was super fun. I really appreciate you taking the time. And that's it. Hope everybody has
great.
a great night. Thanks for watching.
Thank you.
Great, thanks.
All right. Good night.